Wall Street Unplugged looks beyond the regular headlines heard on mainstream financial media to bring you unscripted interviews and breaking commentary direct from Wall Street right to you on Main Street.
Scot Cohen, thanks so much for coming on Wall Street Unplugged.
Good to be back, Frank. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to start off with a real easy question, right? We've been involved in this stock for a very, very long time. I know a lot of people follow me, been in the stock for a long time, and they're so happy to hear from you. I know there's a period there where, you had made a little bit quiet, but the stock was rocking and rolling. So, January, February, seems like you were getting deals. Everything was cool, getting positive news flow. And then out of nowhere, I think it was Q4. And for the full year 2023, delay your report. And then it turned out to be a much longer project than I think most of us thought. What happened during that time frame?
We basically had to ended up redoing our financials when our CFO left, and we had a new team, and to the amount of work that was required to get everybody up to speed was more than anybody ever thought. And as we dug deeper and deeper and deeper, found more and more issues that we just weren't staffed the right way to get it back to where it needed to be. And of course, we didn't find that out until really the end of March. And it just wasn't cutting it. So now going to try to find a new auditor who basically walks is a very tough task, particularly in this environment. So out of nowhere, we get hit with this. And there were so many other things in the business we just had to attend to. But this all of a sudden financial controls is a big, critical piece for a company. And quite frankly, they were lacking in the past. And this is something that we had to get on right away. We switched, we found a new auditor, we brought in a new team, and we fixed it. But it was a humongous body of work to get there. And it took almost all the focus of the company at that time to get these financials back up. You basically redid an entire year of financials with a new team in the span of about 4 months. It's a huge undertaking.
So you were executive chair. Now you become the CEO. I mean, you've been a part of a lot of different companies, and I know you don't even have to be. You could retire if you wanted to. But have you seen something like this before, where it seems like it was caught off guard? But not only that, you're in a quiet period. You can't say anything. And people are asking me, hey, Frank, what's going on? I'm like, we can't really, you can't say what's going on, right? Because everything's being done and it took longer than expected. Have you ever been part of something like this where it took that long or anything? Because it seems like the amount of work put in, and I'm your friend and everything, and I know, and the amount of hours was incredible, but now everything's up to date, but it's pretty crazy times, huh?
Yeah, I have been part of it. I've seen it as an investor. It doesn't feel good, but here's the difference. Very few companies can recover from it. Mm-hmm. Typically, when you get knocked off in your auditor's walk and you've got let's say your balance sheet is where it is and you're in the middle of a restructuring, talk about there's so many things that can happen to you that just put you down for good. And this is a case where we didn't go down. So to answer your question, yeah, I have seen it and I've been part of it. And typically the companies aren't able to come back and get themselves back current. So yeah, I've seen it, and typically it doesn't work out well, but this is a case where this product is really what we're all fighting for. And when it's clear, and you get clear like I am, this product is now no longer a science experiment or a theoretical. It's absolutely proven. And when you have that transformation and you're clear on the performance of the product and where it's going to be, and you look at the future, you fight for it, and that's exactly what we did. And we made sure this got back on track.
You were able to do this without restating anything, right? I believe, and also you in the middle of that, it looks like you cut costs dramatically. Your balance sheet improved, and again, it's like your last sales number wasn't that great. To be honest with you, I wasn't expecting that with the amount of work that you did. It seems like you had to get the foundation built, and now it's built, but. For people that know me do this for 30 years, I usually run away from companies like this, but just the thesis is so intact. And to me, this company, it's a no brainer we can get more into the details of that, but yeah, there was no restatements or anything, right?
No restatements. Of course, restructuring. We've shrunk the business to where it is today, but completely ready to lean into it and crank it back up when the business is there. And we're just meeting it for where it is, for getting the right people on the bus and getting the right team together so we can go into this next phase, this transformation phase, which I believe we're in right now. I'm sure we're going to get into that.
Yeah, let's talk about that because, I look at a product and I look at tasers. I hear from a lot of chiefs specifically. I know you probably talk to a lot of chiefs because I believe it's in your, it's not even like you're testing this in 140 police stations. Like it's actually using it. These people have been trained. Some of these people have been trained. I mean, I don't know how many countries it's in. I don't know if it's, well over 30 or 60, I forget. But I mean, this is kind of everywhere. And I think people are kind of waiting on the sales part. But it seems like when I talk to the chiefs, they're really pissed off at the current system. It's Axon, it's tasers. It's through the tasers, and we know the video feature. But tasers, I mean, if you look at the record of something that, one, I don't even think they're being deployed as much, right? But that's the gateway to actually get into everything else with Axon. But once these chiefs sign with Axon just blows them out of the water, raise prices completely. And there's zero competition. There's nothing else that they could do where they're like, okay, let's move to this service. And it's a complete monopoly in this business. And where I see where you guys are penetrating this market now, and you're in it. It's like you said, it's not a test. I just feel like this alternative, not only for the device where it's better, it's the only non-lethal, it seems like a no-brainer where sales are going to be coming in. But I guess maybe talk about the device, and I don't know if you can talk about what you're hearing from chiefs, but what I hear is, they're sick of Axon because Axon stock's doing great. Their margins are through the roof. But man, the contract they sign compared to how much they're paying after year one, year two, these 5-year contracts, it's dramatically higher. And there's nothing that they could do about it, seems like.
Right. There hasn't been nothing new on the belt for over 30 years. Axon, the tasers are the last thing to hit the belt in over 30 years. Mm-hmm. This is the only device that's been absorbed on the belt by over, the level, the quantity of the departments that we're in right now. We're in 60 countries right now. There hasn't been anything else. Let's just start there. Now, with regards to just Axon essentially dominating this industry, the market's telling us there's plenty of room for other people to enter the market. Yes, we entered the market with the BolaWrap, and yes, we bought a body cam business. Yes, we bought a training, a virtual reality business, and we put it together. But it lacked the successful integration, what we're doing now. And that integration that we've had time to digest and talk and listen to our clients, our biggest customers and small customers as well, are telling us that we need to compete end to end. The market's telling us and our customers telling us we have to do it. And we need to do it now because for the most part, they're running a very successful business. It's as closed of a system as it could possibly be. And it's very hard to break into that. But once you're on the belt, you can land and expand. And that's what we're planning. We're on the belt and we're going on more belts. And we figured out a path and a strategy we'll be talking about in the next call, our first real call when we're laying out the new strategy and vision. But we'll be talking about how that belt space for us, there's a place for us for that and how we see the future, because I have no doubt now, Frank, we're going to be on every belt and every officer, not just in this country, but around the world. It's happening now. You can't see it as much, but I'm starting to see it. I'm starting to hear it from the chiefs. There's behavioral change happening right now, both in policy and other movements that are going on, mindset movement, that there might be something else to use, or they're being forced to consider new options when there's passive resistance. And I know we're going to get in a rich conversation about that. It's a big term coming up, and it's a real important spot for us to play. We should not be compared to tasers. It's a different tool, totally different. Guns, tasers, batons, pepper spray, they're very hot. They're hot. It's a different level of force. Mm-hmm. It's a very different level of force.
Talk about the level of force, because there's a big thing where this is, they had to change the designation for tasers to less than lethal because it has killed people. Just that interaction, especially when it comes to mental patients, right? Where they'll just come out at you where, okay, it's a taser or a gun, or even if someone has a knife. I've seen this in the field where, the BolaWrap works. Sounds like a gun. I've got shot by it, right? I'm like, man, how is this not, how are we not seeing more sales in this? When I look at this device, and like I said earlier, it seems like a no-brainer. I know you're going to talk about strategy, and if you could provide like the data around that date, you're going to do that call and everything. I don't know how much you could talk about, but how do you see this turning into where, chiefs like we need an alternative to an actual sale? Like, did they need to see more data? You talked about integrating the whole package. I mean, can you talk about that? Like, how is this going to result in sales?
So in this whole narrative matters a lot in public safety and policing. So we had the wrong narrative. Let's just start with the name of the company, WRAP. Okay. It describes what we're doing. It describes the device, but that's what we all thought. And that's what we taught. And that's what we trained. And that's what we communicated. But it turns out not to be right. There's something else happening than just the WRAP. It's not just the WRAP. It's got sight. The three things that are happening are sight, sound, and sensation. The laser can throw you off and change your mindset. It can get you out of yourself when you shine that laser on somebody. It changes behavior. You can see it in all the body cam footage. And then the sound itself is also a startle. I'm hearing more and more comparisons to a flashbang to get that advantage. And then if it wraps, great. You got it all. But if it doesn't, you can still get your hands and take that person into custody without having to use highest levels of pain, without escalating. Mm-hmm. See, we've been describing it wrong, and we've been training in a way that wasn't as integrated as it should be. And when you integrate defensive tactic training with our BolaWrap training, and you spend the time to get connected and truly deliver a message and go over, and you get repetition in, and you have to really land narrative. So it's in the officer's head, and they really truly believe it. Their confidence level starts to increase. That's where you see usage increase. We're seeing a 75% to almost sometimes 3 to 4 times in some cases spikes in usage when we're having a real engaged, integrating training moment. And so the difference between extensive usage and just sitting there and not really seeing the numbers, to me, is all about how we land integrated training and how we stay connected. And that is something we're innovating on. That's something we've been working on. And that's something you're going to hear more and more about, not just our clients, but our investors will hear how we're executing on that. It's going to make a big difference.
Now, how many forces are currently, is it over 140, I think, law enforcement agencies? Is that do you know the numbers on it?
We're in 60 countries. We're in over 1,000 departments. How many are actively using it?
Yeah.
Tough to tell because they don't always report. And so the only way a lot of times that we get to know that they're using it is the reordering cartridges. But what we're seeing is not just reordering cartridges, reordering of more units. So they started with 12. They've gone to 20, and we're seeing them indicate for more. Mm-hmm. We think the more they're utilizing this, the more demand, the more comfortable, the more behavioral change you'll just witness, not just by our financials, but when you walk down the street, you see the officer carrying a BolaWrap. We're seeing, and here's where I'm starting to get a lot more confidence. We're seeing, I am hearing from our biggest customers, Taser use is going down. I see it. They're not, because of the policies. Mm-hmm. Policies are changing. They're making it more difficult. If you're not being attacked, or if you're not a threat, in many states, certainly plenty of departments, you can't go to your gun and you can't go to Taser. It's fairly nuanced. And as that trend continues, if that's the trend we're on, it's debatable. It's not going to be this way in every state or every department. It's going to be a variety of different policies. It will be forever. But this is a trend, and this is why my confidence is really starting. It's going a lot higher. It's coming from the customers. The customers are talking to us, and we're listening. I've met with our top 10 accounts in the last 6 months, and I've spoken at dozens of chiefs, major cities and smaller cities, and talked to a lot of policymakers. There is real movement you're going to see, and that's where I think you're just going to start opening up, and you're going to start to see domestic volumes finally catch up. Problem is, in the past, we weren't able to really get clear forecasts. It was choppy. It was a new company, a new product. Nobody likes change. Nobody likes change, period.
Yeah.
Public safety and change, policing changing. I mean, no new tool in 30 years. It's not going to just happen overnight. The mistake, I think, the expectations, Frank, were so high at the beginning. Mm-hmm. You saw it work. It wrapped around somebody perfectly, and everybody's like, this is going to be the next thing. It's going to be everywhere. And that's common thinking. Just see it. Mm-hmm. Seeing is believing. Well, guess what? It's not actually true. It takes more. It takes narrative support. It takes training support. It takes real teamwork to support that customer, that client that we've got, and make sure they know we're there for them. And we have to be fully connected. And when you're seeing that, when you get there, the results are speaking for themselves, and it's exciting. We can't cover the whole country. We just can't. We're not big enough. Yeah, maybe a couple of years ago, we had a lot more staff, possibly be better. But now, as a result of technology, we believe, and you'll hear about this, we have a more efficient way to train that doesn't cost us what it used to cost us. Our business model, our go-to-market is a lot more efficient than it's ever been. And we can now we can go build something special because the ground is finally firm. It's not hoping that we're getting this big order and that's going to solve all problems. No, we fundamentally got deep into the people, into the systems and the controls to make sure when this happens, because it's happening, that we're set and it's sustainable, because we got a long way to go. There's a long way to go here. We haven't even scratched the surface here.
Yeah. And that sounds great too, because I did it with my business too, right? I mean, you just want to excel into growth mode without really building the foundation. It seems like, although this was a reset, I think it was, it's a reset that was painful, I think, for everyone, for shareholders. I know you're the largest shareholder. I know you haven't sold shares. It's painful, but having that and now seeing, just how you have the cost structure in place and what you're doing, and not just a story, because we just saw news come out, which I thought was fantastic this week, which was from Virginia. Maybe you can go into that, because it's not like, hey, we're seeing this or this is going to happen. I mean, this is a very popular governor that people heard of that was saying very, very, very positive things, saying we are supporting this. We all need to get behind it. Why don't you talk about that news that you just released this week about Virginia?
Yeah. So it started off by moving there for incentives that made sense to us. But then as we started our visits, we started to see the labor pool. A lot of talent there at very different prices than we're seeing in Arizona. Mm-hmm. So from an economic standpoint, with the stimulus, the incentive package, and the talent pool, that it was enough to start those meetings and start the process. But we didn't expect the governor to be so engaged. It just started happening, and Governor Youngkin is a special human being. I mean, he could be doing anything he wants, but he chooses to serve the people. He chooses to take his time to make his state and his country a better, safer place. It's deep inside of him. You can tell. And when you have somebody like that, a leader that's been able to connect the community, the public safety community, the political community, and the business leadership community, and bring in a company like ours, that's talent. That's what it takes to build a business, to connecting. This is it's a public company. It's a public safety play. And when you got a leader like Governor Youngkin, who cares, who's making the phone calls, who's spending his time with us, talking to us about the problems in school safety, hospital safety, use of force. He cares about this, and he is clearly respected around the world. So when you add up everything and the opportunity, if we can just get Virginia right, and by the way, we have over 10% of the departments already carry BolaWraps in the state of Virginia. We've trained over 4,000 officers. It's closer to Washington, which under this new leadership, we plan on being much more active in Washington, because that sets up the global play for us. And there's a lot of federal business for us to do. So now, as a result of being closer and being on the East Coast, we think this is just closer where our customers are. This is closer to the federal government. And get one state right, and the data that we're starting to see should open it up for the rest of the country. This is not that difficult to understand with the data, and we haven't had the data yet, but we're hearing about it. We're starting to record it, and we're doing things going forward that's going to make the data crystal clear. Just something that needed to get done. It's getting done now.
Hey guys, today's podcast is being sponsored by Bridge Tower. It's a real estate investment company, an incredible track record and model of building, developing, acquiring single family for rent and build to rent homes. So market within the housing industry, it's seeing incredible demand as home affordability is out of reach for most American families. So what do they have to do? They have to rent. So now Bridge Tower, and this is the very first time they're doing this, guys. They're opening up a new fund for retail investors that are accredited. So you don't have to have $5 million in a BlackRock account or Goldman Sachs to get into this fund. These guys are very, very credible. I know them personally, very strong returns, know this market inside and out. I mean, companies like KKR, Walton Street Capital, they're not going to partner with everybody. They did partner with these guys. So this new fund comes with really, really good terms for those seeking growth and income. And yes, I vetted it. And yes, I'm investing in it. So you're going to get incredible yield with the opportunity for capital appreciation. So this is a great, great name. It's run by my friend George Wong, who's a co-founder of this fund. Incredibly brilliant guy, senior analyst at Sabretooth Capital and $1 billion Tiger Hedge Fund. I mean, this guy's been everywhere. He'll hop on a call with you to answer any questions you have. So here's the website. You see you scrolling through it. Or you can call him direct at 469-963-2550. And my friend George will get on the phone with you personally. And for more information, go to www.bridgetowerinvest.com. That's www.bridgetowerinvest.com. Now, let me ask you a question because really quick on the date. I don't want to get too much in the weeds here. When you pull out a BolaWrap, it automatically tapes. Is that correct?
No, it does not right now. Unfortunately, it is not doing that.
But it does for a taser, right? So I feel like they're more inclined to take out BolaWrap, which is not going to tape, just because sometimes it should be a recorded event. But compared to any of it, a taser, sometimes if you don't do anything, it's not going to be a recorded event. It just opens it. If I'm an officer, I'm going to be honest with you, if I'm an officer, and I know one of these things are going to record and one of these things aren't going to record, I'm probably going to pull out the thing. If it's the same situation where I know the BolaWrap could help us, someone just who's approaching me that I'm saying, hey, don't come any closer, again, with no weapon, I, as an officer, I would pull out BolaWrap instead of, because, just not to get recorded. But then how do they get the data? Because the data, it seems like once they get this data, that's where, because again, when it comes to, I know police officers in a lot of industries, it's, just look at it, whatever the data says, that's it. We need to see the data. We don't care. We just need to see the data. But how do you get the data recorded?
So they still record. It just we're not connected to that. We don't have a device connecting. So it's automatic recording. It's something we're building in for this next generation. But right now, the way it's still recorded on body cam for the most part, it depends on whatever policy you're working with, whatever municipality you're in or department you're in. So it's department specific. So look, Frank, it's not, hey, I'm not going to get recorded, so therefore I'm going to use the BolaWrap. It's more, what's going to get reported? That's a question, because if you have to report on use of force, which most cities you do, RAP right now is non-reportable in over half of the jurisdictions we're in right now. Over 500 departments their policy reflects it's not a reportable use of force. Now, I'm not going to sit there and argue with city legislators whether it should be or shouldn't be, but I'm just giving you the state of the union right now. And that's fine. But I believe the data that we're looking for when we complete this system, and here's the new news. You saw it on today's press release. This is going to be an integrated system solution. This is no longer selling a device. You can't win with the device. You have to sell the whole system. And when you're selling a system, you're absolutely recording everything. And that's when we're going to get the data that we need to win. Because this gives officers an advantage they never had before. When you're looking at somebody and they're passively resistant and they say, no, Frank, I'm not, or no, officer, I'm not putting my hands up, or I'm not interested, leave me alone. You got a choice. It's training from here. So are you going to your gun, taser, baton, pepper spray? What are you going to? Are you going to use of force? No, it's voice. But depending on the level of resistance, you have a choice. And that's, if they're not armed and they're not a threat, that's when we suggest, and the training is, get your BolaWrap out, be ready, because it gives you an advantage. You know who wins there? Everybody wins, but the officer stays safer, because when he or she goes hands-on, that's where people get hurt. And it's dangerous. When you wrestle somebody and you're in a hands-on situation, guess what they have access to? your belt, your gun, your taser. You don't. It's not a place you want to be. It's just not a place you want to be. This is a behavioral change. It is new. It's taking time. We think we figured out what the problem was. It was narrative and integrated, lack of integrated training. We're on it. We're putting it, we've called it out. We're fixing it.
So wrap is the largest position in my portfolio, one of my biggest positions. And there's a reason why for that. When I look at Axon, we're looking at, which is the Taser, right? They make the Taser. It's called Axon now. Switch their names for the right reasons. They don't call themselves Tasers anymore. $50 billion market cap, $2 billion in sales. 50 billion market cap. I see your market cap at 70 million, and I'm looking at 4 million in sales, where you basically, you're trading at a lower multiple actually than they are right now. Yet when I see the Virginia orders, when I see how big that's going to be, when I constantly see people talking about and different police departments talking about, but more importantly, one of the biggest things that I've seen, which is incredible, is international. Okay, you said earlier you're in 60 different countries, and Chile just announced their 2025 budget. Okay, this is coming from them, saying that they have $38 million, remember, you're doing 4 million in sales, allocated for 2025, right, for their budget, for the purchase of 10,500 BolaWraps. Now, so let's get approved, right? But they actually have the uniforms that are being made with the pocket that's going to include that, right? So it's, with a pocket specially made for the BolaWrap. That is one country and one order. Could you go into the international? Because I know you're very safe. I felt like you were, optimistic in the past because of how enthused they were, these countries, because they're really against Taser, right? I believe they think that that's like a use of force, and it's brutal force on criminals, like they're totally against it. But could you talk about the international demand? Because this one order, again, it's in their budget. This is them reporting. And I know you don't say a thing about it because you're saying, oh, well, it might not happen. It looks like to me it is going to happen for them to do that and actually make the uniforms. But that's just one country. How is the international demand? What are you seeing there? Do you have meetings and whatever you could talk about? I think would be really cool.
Part of the new strategy we'll be talking about in our call, you're going to see a lot more connectivity with the federal government. We believe that our product is in line with the U.S. foreign policy and the U.S. agenda for overseas. We're looking to de-escalate, looking to create and keep peace. A lot of the countries that we're in are not carrying guns or tasers. And we think that as a result of us, what I'm seeing is that connectivity with our federal government where we are overseas is what's going to help us push over these deals and get them over the line. There are, like you said, Chile alone, just that we're being told I think it was public, it's every uniform, it's going to be every officer. So it's materially different than that first 33 million that was in that budget.
So, I think it's like, I don't know, 40,000, I want to say 35,000 when I researched it. So this is like 25% they're talking right now. So yeah, I think.
Yeah, well, I think that particular force is about 31,000, but there's also two other forces for a total of 100,000. And we haven't even started talking about the security guards. So it's just, it's actually bigger. Frank, it's no different than dozens of countries. Yes, it's further. Okay. And the first one's the toughest one. We're another, I told you we're in 60 countries. We're not big like this potential, but the conversation is not just a dozen or 20 or 100 or 1,000. It's full deployment from all their officers. This is a trend. I see it advancing, and look at how Chile started. Started off with a fairly small order, and then training and a lot of footwork to get it to where it is. And the team did an incredible job getting it to where it is. Just takes time. Never before have we seen it in the budget. So this is the first. It's new. It's a hell of a validator for the company from a shareholder perspective. We're winning in a very big way assuming we can execute on that. And I believe we can. I'm optimistic, and I don't think Chile's an isolated incident. In fact, I know it's not, because the conversations we're having with other countries are just so clear. And to me, the more we're referencing usage and as we're discussing and explaining the training in a way that relates to them a little bit better. And it mostly coming from really respecting their current practices and bringing and figuring out the integration of the BolaWrap program with their current practices is what's landing a little bit stronger. And I think it's more and more confidence takes time. But at the end of the day, the results, things, we're having almost zero mechanical issues. This thing is working. I'm so proud of the engineering team for what they put together. They did a great job, and it took time, as you know. I mean, a lot of the fixes were done in the last couple of years, but we put a lot of money and time into the development of the unit. Now I think it's stable. It's actually performing really nicely, and as we land this training, it should be extremely clear because the data is going to be crystal clear.
And that's just one country we're talking about with there's, many others. And I like you being very upfront saying that, it's not like that big in all the countries, but we are having conversations like that. How is the bureaucracy? I mean, is it difficult? Because I know it seems like in the US, okay, you got to go through the training and I get it, but it seems like the orders are small. And I covered Taser when it was single digit stock 15 years ago. When I used to work for Kramer, and saw it. Like the orders are all over the place. You're lumpy, which hurt, the stock's all over the place. It's all based on orders. And now they have a system in place where, the Taser's basically meaningless. It's the gateway. And here, we're going to sell the data. We're going to charge 13x more for the cloud. Yes, that's true. And I looked it up. And because when you charge the government, they really don't care what they pay. So there's no, checks and balances there. It's not a real company. So, how do you get in? Is it more difficult on the international front in terms of bureaucracy? Because I know the orders, like you said, 10,000, 15,000, they could be these monster orders that change. I mean, just put that in perspective. I mean, getting this order, even if you spread out over 2 years and say if it was 20 million and 20 million, just say, and you put the multiple on, what is it? I wouldn't even put 25 times 20. I mean, you look at a market cap of 400 million when you're at 70 million. I mean, you guys could do the how much that is for the stock price on one order, but is it difficult to more bureaucratic there? Is it harder to penetrate? I mean, or is this, could this happen a lot quicker than in the US?
What's nice about Chile is the gold standard of Latin America. So everybody looks to them for policy and pristine governance and training and vetting of technology and training. So the fact that we're starting there, I believe, and I've heard that throughout the region, that once you get Chile, the rest of the region will fall. It's the gold standard, and everybody's watching that. We have the same, not so similar in the States. I mean, let's face it, public safety policing and just in life in general, we follow what's working. We want to know who else is using. We want to know how often they're using. We want to see how they're using it. Very similar. You're seeing major cities behavior change right now. This is all post-Floyd. It's taken a while to set in. Policies have changed. I'm seeing policies change. And when they change, behavior changes. That's the intent of the policies. And it's not, none of this is around escalating force. I can assure you. It's going the other way. We got the only game in town here. No, right now there's no competition. I'm sure somebody's going to show up. They're showing up overseas, but the beautiful thing about this is let them show up. It's not just the device. It's the way we train. It's the integration. It's the system solution. And to answer your question about when we come into these governments, yeah, they're bureaucratic and yeah, it takes time. What I'm loving right now, you saw that on today's announcement. We're now going end-to-end integration. We are offering almost everything our competitors are and more. We will offer more. So now all of a sudden, we're not just having a BolaWrap conversation. We're talking body cam. We're talking training. We're talking drones and cyber right now. People want to deal with one shop. And when you're there with the decision makers, we'll see how this goes. It's early innings. But what I'm feeling right now, and I think the team is seeing, there's a real interest to do business with another company. States, there's one dominant player in the States, maybe two. Overseas, it's a little bit more of a variety of different competitors. But what I'm finding is it's easier than I thought to get into these connected conversations. And what we're seeing is costs have come down dramatically, pipelines going up. That's where we want to be. Because when this stuff starts hitting, you're going to see it right in our earnings because the costs are so down. We've developed the inventory. We've got that $25 million worth of inventory at MSRP that we've stockpiled. We're going to sell it. And when we do, it goes right to cash. And it's really the market will see this if we're successful, or should say when we're successful. And I think that multiple of Taser, what I would think, or Axon, I would think we would trade it at a higher multiple because we should be growing faster. There's a lot of market to grab right here.
So when's the date that you said you're going to come out for investors? Is that coming up?
We haven't set the date yet. We want to do it before year end. We have an annual meeting coming up right before year end, and we're going to we'll most likely do it afterwards. I really want to do it 24, and we'll get into 25. I would prefer to do it 24. So we'll send out notice shortly. It has to be in the next week or so. We'll probably send out notice.
Cool. Because I think investors too, even from when people talk to me, there's not much I could say during that period. But now, I just tell them, hey, you know what, it's my largest position. I know you haven't sold a share in the stock, but it's, when you see the potential upside, you see there's only a monopoly in there. I guess my next question is, what makes them so great, Axon, and they're a great company, is the data portion, right? And the margins on the data they're able to charge. You're talking about this whole solution, and you talk about drones as well, which is, huge. It's getting bigger and bigger, huge growth market with drones and capturing and safety and stuff. How do you get to the data component where, and maybe I'm thinking too far ahead, because once you start selling this device, it's going to be huge, but to turn yourself into, say, a multi-billion-dollar company, right, with the data, how do you provide that solutions? Is it hard to say if it's a different country, say if it's Chile, say if it's Virginia, a state, when they purchase BolaWrap and they purchase a solution and the trading, how does that filter down to where, hey, we also have the data? Is the data for everyone? Is the data exclusive to Axon? Is it a new data system? Can you explain that part? Because that's another level where, holy cow, this thing, now you're talking about a multi-billion-dollar company.
I'm going to correct you for a sec. The difference, the transformation, yes, we're going data, but it's not the data's transforming. It's actually the people. You're going to see a quality of people in this company soon that will reflect where the plan is going, where our vision is. It's the people with the backgrounds that when you put the data and the tools to work, that's going to be executing on that's the execution of the vision. And that the people, the talent with the background and experience combined with these new tools that are already available. So to address that a year or 2 years ago, for us to try to pull this off and provide these solutions, these data solutions, would have been, we wouldn't have the talent nor we have the money to put the talent together to provide those solutions. Today, it's a fraction of the cost. And what we're finding, there's a number of companies that have very, I would say, prolific solutions that can go against I actually find some of them to be better than the tools currently on the market, that need help, that need representation, that want to be part of our family because they see us as a leader. They see us as an innovator. They see us on the belt and a segue for them to kind of come in under us. So there's a handful of companies. We're actually not making all these tools, but we're partnering and bringing them underneath us. And in some cases, we will make it on our own. In some cases, it will just be an integration model. So the access to these tools is there's so much more available than they've been before. And I know you, as you're watching a lot of this AI development, there's so much work and there's so much application for the AI to make us more efficient and safer. Think about just all the video footage that's out there, and it's tiresome. It takes forever to go through it. But now with the AI, you can get to it and really evaluate whether your tool or your training was effective or what really happened. And you know what all that does? At the end of the day, it makes us safer. I'm hopeful. I know that between the drone programs that departments are using and the way they're going about it, we're going to be able to get ahead, using tech of these situations before they escalate. And that's exactly what we're about. When you're de-escalating something, I mean, and it's training, it's de-escalation training. Get it. Our tool, I want you to think about it as a containment tool. Yeah, it's restraint, but it contains someone without using pain to get you in compliance. And it gives officers an advantage that they never had before. And we're seeing it work. We're watching the data come in, and we know it's just a matter of time. We got to get the right partners. We got to be end to end, and we got to put the right team in place, which we're doing now, to make this a full-on competitor for the marketplace. And the market is telling us to compete. The market is telling us, go and offer that, because the biggest clients, the biggest cities I've spoken to in the last 2 months, the chiefs, the biggest cities in the country, and they're all asking, can we please come in and compete for this business? And guess what? We're going to actually do that. I'm just not going to sit there and just listen to that request. We're going to take action, and it's now.
So let me ask you a personal question. When all this went down, I mean, this is really big. You're looking at 6 months, right? Going through the books, new auditor, restructuring the business, not to mention new baby on the way, a lot going on. And, again, you're someone that didn't have to become the CEO, and you can retire if you wanted to. And right now it's really nice seeing you like this compared to, just in the past and stuff. You feel like you got energized. Any chance that you were like, man, holy cow, I don't know if I could do this or whatever? Because now it seems like the amount of work that you put in, and you could just see it, the reflection of that I know you, of how excited you are now. I mean, does that make you much stronger now going through that process? And talk a little bit about that, because I know it could have been probably easy for you to walk away with everything going on.
Look, Frank, I mean, would I've liked all the past leadership just to work out? Of course, it would have been amazing. I mean, it's just a high five moment, but I guess life just isn't that easy, and it's not that, it just doesn't work that way. It was a startup, launching something new in a market, and the expectations are really high. I mean, we traded at a $500 million market cap. Our stock was 15, raised $100 million on the way. Expectations are high. And for good reason, because I think it's clear that once this gets the data behind it, it's going to be everywhere. So I understand why the expectations are high, but from an investor standpoint, which I am, if you're not performing, you can't be afraid to make changes. And we did. Change is hard, but I'm not going to do the same thing. The definition of sanity, do the same thing over and over. And that is what we were doing. I mean, you can say there was a twist here and twist there, but no. We took this thing, we had to do what we had to do. We met the business where it is. I am the biggest investor in this company, and I care deeply about it. To me, it is absolute legacy. And for all our investors, for you and everybody that owns a share, I hope that you feel the same way. This should be legacy for all of us. It doesn't have to be unique to me. We're doing something important here. What we do matters, and it's going to have impact, not just right now, but for your kids and their kids. You're going to see that. This is serious behavioral change impact that we're making right now. This is higher purpose, for sure. And it just so happens our shareholders have a chance to get really rewarded if we do this right. And I believe we're on perfect ground, right? It's stable for the first time. The expectation I'm fine with. Now I know team members, we put the controls in place. We're putting the team members in place. We're putting the new go-to-market narrative strategy. It's happening now. You'll hear about it more in detail, but I'm proud of where we are. I feel the best I felt about this business from the day we started. It's transformed the whole time. But now, with the move to the East Coast, this is deep. This was necessary. And yes, to answer your question, we are more resilient than we've ever been. We can stand up. We went through a lot, Frank, to get here. There's no turning back now. We're going to do it.
Great. That's great. Listen, I think investors are going to look forward to that meeting. It's a couple of weeks before the year, hopefully. But I really appreciate you coming on. I know it's not easy. I know a lot of people have been frustrated the way the stock's been acting, but to me, I always saw it where the thesis is very well intact. And at the end of the day, it's all I care about is my investors, right? I'm not getting paid marketing dollars or anything. I have a big position. I'm sure most people do, so I feel it as well. But just to see where we are right now at this price and the opportunity in front of us, it really looks incredible. So, again, it's all about execution. I think everybody knows that, but coming on, explaining that and going through in the humble part is really, really cool. And then you can see, I think people are going to see that you're very motivated to really take this to the next level. So I really appreciate you coming on, Scott. It means a lot.
Appreciate your support and confidence. Thank you.
Wall Street Unplugged is produced by Curzio Research, one of the most respected financial media companies in the industry. The information presented on Wall Street Unplugged is the opinion of its host and guests. You should not base your investment decisions solely on this broadcast. Remember, it's your money and your responsibility.